And so we are just going to have a potluck discussion for 2021 planning and development for the affiliate community foundations. And feel free to jump in through the chat or through just speaking up if you have something to add as we're having this conversation. So I do have a PowerPoint I'll share, and I sent it out ahead of time to everybody, but I will stop sharing often so that we can see each other because sometimes it's easier to see each other. But so these are the objectives that we have for today's conversation. So we want to develop an understanding of what kind of support is helpful for the affiliate community foundations. And that includes discussing learning topics that we might undertake for the next year and just think about planning needs. I know we've had a couple of groups that have done, a couple of foundations that have done some planning. And then we're going to, at the very end, just give you an overview of some opportunities that have arisen in the Promise Zone. So, it looks like Emily's here. So we will have just let you all, or have you all hear about some of those opportunities that are there and what we're going to be doing, thinking together about those opportunities. So what we're going to jump right into some sharing with Bobby, who I need to actually make a host. The Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky did a survey and some interviews that you all probably remember. And so he's going to talk about what they heard through those and some of the resolutions they've come up with to address that. So I will make Bobby a host. And you should now be able to share your screen, Bobby, and talk about the
Wonderful. Thank you so
results.
much, Donna. Here we go. This should be, yeah, perfect. Can everyone see the New Year's resolution document?
Yep.
Wonderful. So we're going to be sending this out to all the affiliates later, but we wanted to run it by you all here in the potluck first, just in case you had any extra feedback for us. Looking through the survey we did, along with the phone calls that we had, we found some common feedback from all the affiliates, and we wanted to let you all know what we're doing to address that in the new year. So the first thing that we noticed on the left-hand side, when we asked what kind of support affiliates wanted or what support affiliates wanted more of, a lot of it revolved around fundraising and about trainings. And also all of the feedback we got on Brushy Fork was positive. So we figured, all right, let's kill 3 birds with 1 stone. So the way we're addressing that is next year we are continuing our work with Brushy Fork. So we're hoping we will be doing more trainings with them, just like this year. We're going to have recordings of those trainings. So if you're unable to attend, you'll be able to go through and watch them at a later date. Along with Brushy Fork. So Brushy Fork was one of the biggest positive feedbacks we got. The largest negative feedback we got, or room for growth, was on our website. So our second point here, basically everyone said, we need a new website, we need a new design, and we 100% agree with that. So we have been working with PMP, which is a strategy brand around web design and imaging. And so we have worked with them since this fall. They have come up with a brand redesign for us and the affiliates. And they are also creating a new website for us and the affiliates based around that design. In the surveys, one of the big things, and the phone calls, one of the big things people pointed out was that they had a hard time finding the donate button or choosing which funds on the website they want to donate to. So on every affiliate page, there's going to be a very easy to find donate button. And we're going to streamline that process, especially now that we're in Community Suite for our financial system. We also wanted to provide marketing ability with the new branding. And so we are going to provide every affiliate with funding so that they can get new materials, letterheads, business cards, etc., to match this branding. And since we've been working in the fall, they're actually, PMP Brands is going to do a brand reveal later on this month. And once we have the website reveal and all that information set, we'll send it out to the affiliates and we'll keep you all posted on that. And then the last major bit of feedback that was common amongst all of the surveys and the phone calls was that affiliate board members felt disconnect between themselves and the foundation. And so to address that issue, we have a couple things that we're going to do. First off, the foundation is going to start a monthly newsletter, and that's just going to, tell the affiliates what we're doing each month, give them a heads up on the programs we're running, the work we're doing, but also to give shout outs for what the affiliates are doing. Because obviously each affiliate's doing amazing things. You are doing great work. You're putting in the time. You deserve to get shout outs for it. And also it helps the other affiliates see what work is being done, right? So then they can replicate that throughout. On the website, we're also going to have a page specifically for the affiliates, and it's going to have example programs that affiliates have done successfully in the past for fundraising or for making change in the community. It's going to have sample documents. So if you need a specific document, you can find it on that page. The affiliate manual will be on there. Basically, it'll be a library of anything you could ever want, ideally. And it will be accessible just to you. It'll be password protected. So if someone random logs on from Google, they won't be able to see that page. Just the affiliates and the foundation staff will. And then the last thing, once deemed safe by the CDC and state governments, we are going to try and hold in-person potlucks. I know we had talked about this one being in person at one point, and obviously we had to change our plans. So we're hoping to do that semi-regularly, just to invite the affiliates in, so that we can see your faces, because we love seeing you in person, and so that you can socialize with the other affiliates to try and build that bond and to share ideas. With that, is there any feedback that you all feel I missed from the surveys, or any additional things that maybe you didn't say in the survey but has come up since? Anything you would like to add to this? All right. Well, wonderful. If you have any other feedback, any ideas, you can always email me or call me. I'm happy to hear it, and looking forward to the new year. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate it. So you've heard a little bit then about those survey results, and what we want to do now is continue the conversation around really a little more specifically on the work that Brushy Fork has done with you all over the past year, and then looking forward to 2021. And so what I thought I would do is remind everybody what we've done over the past year, because if you're like me, the year was kind of a blur in some ways. So just as a reminder of some of the things that we did, webinars that we offered and planning that we did in 2020, is we had some basic sessions on Community Foundations 101. So those kind of community foundation sessions, we did Community Foundations 101 and responsive and strategic grant making. We did some sessions, and these are all those 1 hour lunch webinars on board processes, things like group norms for effective communication, effective meetings and decision making, a deep dive into facilitation techniques, how to build a board culture, talking about that. We did several things actually around donor development, but one of the feedback pieces that I heard, particularly from Sandy Kurd gave feedback before the meeting because she wasn't able to be here. And she said she really felt like that the whole donor development piece and fundraising piece is something that would be a good thing to focus on this year. But here's some of the kind of initial diving into that we did last year with donor development. And that was this donor development webinar with Ann Nash. Then we followed up with taking action on what we learned and spent some time talking about that. We had a Endow Kentucky tax credit session, and then a session on the transfer of wealth and what that looks like in the different communities. And then we just had a couple of webinars, or maybe just one, that was communication among affiliates. That was a lot like this potluck gathering, where it was just an opportunity to talk and to share. And so, you know, looking ahead, we could do more of that if folks want. And then we got into planning processes for the Upper Cumberland Community Foundation and for the Perry County Community Foundation, because they were the two affiliates who came forward and said, we want to start this planning process. So that's where we were in terms of what we did last year, just as a reminder to people. So I think for about the next 10 minutes or so, we might talk about what worked well for you, and are there ways that your foundation benefited? And then we are going to move on to another piece of discussion about what didn't work well and how we can improve it. So we could actually just jump on both of those questions. If you've got things that worked really well that you'd want to continue, share that. Or if you've got things that that you think we could do differently, then let us know that. And so I'm going to stop sharing while we talk about those two questions.
One thing that I think, and it's really kind of a no-brainer, and I know it's easy and will be continued to do, is the fact that we're recording these and putting them out on YouTube. Because, you know, as I look around right now, and generally speaking, when I think about the foundation that I'm a part of, the affiliate that I'm a part of, you know, there's not been a lot of representation, but I can certainly, as these things come up, say, okay, take a look at this, you know, watch this. And it's just really great that we can go back and use that. And I really appreciate the YouTube channel, and I appreciate being able to find it easily and be able to go back and refer to it. So that's really very helpful.
Great.
I'd be interested to hear if anyone from Perry County or Upper Cumberland has any comments or ideas about the planning and the sort of future thinking about what the affiliates want to do in the coming year, and how we might encourage the other affiliates to take advantage of that opportunity.
The planning that we did with Upper Cumberland with Donna was highly beneficial for us. We were able to identify who and what we are, and develop a course of action to take over the next few years to get to where we want to be, and identifying the strategies to get there. So some other funds that we wanted to open, some recruitment type things that we want to do, and what we want to focus on, what areas we want to focus on helping here in this region. And we were able to do all of that, and kind of hone in the entire board to focus on these specific issues that we identified. So it was highly beneficial for us, I'll say.
From Perry County's perspective, it's very beneficial. And all I can say is Donna is a very patient woman, because we, our group, we are decidedly indecisive. And so it's been very frustrating, I'm sure, for a lot of us, but it's such a worthy exercise, because we're being asked to think and rethink and then think some more. And so we're not finished with ours, because every time we get Donna to the table with us, we sidetrack and chase rabbits, and then she tries her best to round us back up. And that sounds like that it's chaotic. It's really not. But every question opens up 20 more questions. And so it's really making us think hard and think and be very thoughtful about the process. And I really commend Donna. I mean, truly, because with the Perry County Community Foundation, she is a master cat herder. That's all I can say.
Well, these are big picture items. You know, you're really thinking about a lot of very systemic issues and big picture things. And so it's going to take time. And so we're going to give it that time, as much time as you all want to give it. So, So that and we are going to move on to Jerry's question of what is it that folks would like to see in the coming year too. But is there anything, I'm really very specifically interested in whether there's anything this year that did not go well for you that you think we could do something to improve. So if there's anything that comes to mind, and if you don't want to share it this way, then you can send me an email later about it, or just speak up now or put it in the chat. So do feel free to share areas that we can improve, because we want to meet you where we need to be meeting you and craft our work to serve you as you want to be served. So.
One comment that I have, I absolutely agree that fundraising, we need to go into more fundraising. And I absolutely think that Berea and Brushy Fork are the great folks to lead and facilitate for us. But one thing I would like to see is possibly having, when we have those discussions, somebody from the foundation, the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky, that can answer very specific questions about the do's and don'ts and cannots about the fundraising itself. For example, if we want to start talking about very specific funders, okay, these are strategies and this and that and the other. And I know that sometimes we don't always know what's happening at the foundation level, the parent foundation level, which is fine. I'm not saying that we're supposed to. But, we don't want to, we just want to know what we can and can't do. So although we may be talking about strategic ideas and concepts and best practices and the how-tos, I think sometimes we need the voice of the foundation itself to say, do this, don't do this. We are already working on this. We can help you with that. So I think that would be very helpful.
That's excellent feedback, Melissa. And I hope one of our hopes is this monthly sort of email newsletter to all of the affiliates will help with some of that, because there isn't anything you're not supposed to know. So when we start, so hopefully the reporting to the affiliates on each of all the different initiatives and such will give a better insight into like what's going on with a power grant in this county or that county. And, because no matter which affiliate is thinking or community is thinking about a project or doing a project, it goes, it's through the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky. So we want to make sure we're not getting twisted up with, well, Knott County was going to do a power grant, but Perry County already did a power grant and we can't have two power grants, so we want to make sure we're coordinating, and that's what we're hopeful. So thank you.
And that does kind of lead us into this conversation of looking ahead to how things may look in the work that we're doing going forward. And I wanted to share with you all an idea. I mean, we're talking about topics and fundraising and things like that, but I think also, Brushy Fork can do something different with the structure of these. And I had a thought about how we could structure the monthly webinars that would actually incorporate some of what Melissa's talking about in terms of bringing together the foundation and the affiliates for discussions around these things in addition to the newsletter. So here's what I had in mind that we might do. And that is that we would have, of course, the monthly webinars. The first webinar of a quarter might focus on the presentation of some material around fundraising. So it's actually one of those types of, we bring in a presenter who's an expert or that kind of thing for that hour. The next month, we might have a group discussion among the affiliates to say, okay, how do we want to use what we learned last time? Really, let's think about applying it. And then the third webinar of that quarter would be, how does this fit now within the context and the work of the larger foundation, so that we pull everybody together around, okay, so if we're thinking about, hey, this is how we at the Perry County Community Foundation are going to use what we learn, what does that mean in terms of the larger foundation? What does that mean in terms of connections to the other affiliates? And so we could try to make that third webinar in a quarter a little more like just a conversation and discussion around those types of issues or connections that need to be made. So is there any feedback on that particular approach, which I really just sat here and as you all were talking, created that. So I am completely open to hammering on it or saying, no, that won't work or whatever. So
I think that's a very good idea, unless something that we are considering is time
sensitive.
If it's time sensitive and there's something that we need to gather quickly on, so let's say we're made aware of something, we may not have an entire quarter to try to figure those things out. But as far as a little bit longer term strategy or longer term planning, absolutely. And because we're all volunteers and
Yep.
time is short. And so we can't do it all at one time. We're going to have to do it over time. But I do think that in some cases it might be time sensitive.
Yes, this is Surekha. I do agree. It's a very good idea to have these sessions. It can give us more ideas about what we can do. And I would like one more thing is, how do we present it to our community that we are here to help them and they can approach us, you know, because some people are not that, it's hard for them to approach. So how, if I want to tell the community that, yes, say I'm here, let me know your feelings about certain things without making them, without being condescending or making their pride bruised. You know, I don't want to bruise their pride, but I do want to help them. And I do know if they need it, you know, I would like them to know that if they need it, they can approach me. If I can get a little bit of training on that, I think it will help me a lot.
How do y'all feel about role playing? I think Sharika's point is good. It's all, you know, practicing how to talk to someone.
Yeah. And if we can have a role model, that will be even wonderful.
And
That
actually,
we can turn to.
yeah, I think that's something that Sandy had brought up in her email that she had sent about her feedback, is that role play would be, she feels like that would be a helpful thing for folks. So good.
It's so much fun to do role playing in person. I hope we get to be back together again soon sometime.
Yes, yes.
It's almost like theater.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to do some of that.
So what we've heard so far then around topics is there's the fundraising and donor development topic, but there's also this outreach into the community. What are we? What are the community foundations? What do we do? How can you approach us as topics? So what other kind of topic areas are there?
I think it's always.
Is there a way to, yeah, this is Surekha. How do we find out people or communities that are in need? But, you know, it is part of the same thing that I was saying earlier. But I would like to know if someone is in need and they are not approaching me, but they are in need. How do I do that? How do I find out about them?
Okay, great.
John?
John?
I think it's always helpful to think about other board members, recruiting board members, and criteria for doing that. And interested folks who are interested. I mean, you can see from this webinar, we have it's very hard to get listen, it's hard. I think we have it may be that this board of ours is unusual in that so many folks are either working or have really busy schedules. So I don't know what additional board members we should focus on, but I think that's worth thinking about.
So you're talking about recruiting additional board members and also engaging existing board members in this
Right.
together.
It's sort of how do you get people who really are going to be committed to helping? We're having a hard time even getting dates for planning the way the Perry County, and I'm no better than others. I think we've got a group that's just very busy.
Yeah.
That if you have only busy people, you can never get together on what you really want to accomplish. I wanted to also add the other thing last session, but for Jerry's benefit too, I think it was very helpful to have the funding from the foundation itself that went to businesses and others, the COVID assistance. I think that was really gave, people really appreciated those and they were needed.
What a comment that I have about board engagement or recruiting board members, you know, and I think this just goes with boards in general, is what are people signing up for? You know, we have to be careful that we don't have, you know, in name only kind of folks that need to add it to their resume or something. And so I agree with John is, you know, how do you figure out who is going to be active? And there is an 80-20 rule, just like John said. You know, if they're really active people and they're, you know, busy movers and shakers, they may not have time for us. So you got to figure out. But yeah, we got to find out who's committed. You know, not sure.
That's something that we face too with Upper Cumberland, but I think that we've found our strengths in engaging most of our board members now. It's something the executive board is going to continue to work on, but really identifying people who may not be spending as much time actually participating in the board members or not speaking up. We've had some individual one-on-one conversations, I think, that have been beneficial. And then making sure, you know, that there is a role for them on the board and identifying their own strengths and what they bring to the board as well. But when you're forming something, and we're young still, this foundation is, we had to identify who we were ourselves first before we could recruit more board members to be a part of it, I think. And we're starting to do that thanks to your all's help.
And so this is a point where it sounds like Upper Cumberland Community Foundation has some strategies they could share with some of the other affiliates. And so we could continue to look for ways to bring you in as peer learners together and peer teachers, so to speak.
I think that
Perhaps.
Sandy and I and Corey Chestnut all could help with that. We and identifying new board members. We do an interview with them now and let them know what we're all about, and then give them time to go back and think, is this something I want to make a commitment to? And we found recently there was one that said, no, I don't think that's for me. It's not a good fit. And we moved on to someone that's a perfect fit for us. So that's in Bell County, one of our representatives. So.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing with the board development piece is, you know, if you have people who are up and coming leaders in the community, are there ways to engage them on the board? So we could do some training around how to bring in leaders who are maybe have not been board members in the past and might need, you know, we could help you all think about that, what as a possibility. So are there thoughts around that kind of thing, engaging kind of fresh new leadership?
I
think that sounds like a great idea because like it's already, like it's already been stated, the people that do so many things, are so busy, and it's good to develop those new leaders. I think that's a great idea.
And when we get a little bit toward the end of this call, we'll talk a little bit about some of this larger work that's going on in the Kentucky Promise Zone specifically, but that could help support some of that idea, maybe. So. Any other thoughts about what we could do moving into 2021?
This is Surekha.
Yes.
It would be a good idea for our board members or our foundation to stay in the news some way. I don't know, by maybe having an article about what we are all about, so it can reach the public. What there are places, there are people, there are groups, associations that are there to help. So if we are in there, if we throw them more than once, that we are here, look, we are here for you. So they will approach us more, they will approach us, I think. So we need to be more open, more aggressive in advertising about us, who we are. Advertising will accomplish two things. One, we can raise funds. Second, people can approach us. Yes, this is a good foundation. We can donate to them. Yes, this is a good foundation. We can get help from them without making them feel inferior or anything like that. Keep their pride intact and help people. That would be my mantra. Help without making them feel inferior. Mm-hmm. Help them as if they are part of our family.
Mm-hmm. And that, what Surekha is talking about gets a little bit toward the planning as well as the webinar pieces, because, we hope that coming out of that planning work, it provides a unified message for each affiliate about this is the impact we want to make in the community, and here's how you can help us make that impact. Or if you are, and that message is not just, it's for the donors and it's for the folks who may be receiving the grants, the organizations that may be receiving the grants to do the good work. So in that context, are there things that we might be able to do beyond the planning that would help you all with creating kind of this shared vision, that kind of thing?
I think that marketing and outreach, and so once again, I think this though ties in closely to what Bobby has already presented that the foundation is working on. And I also think that it requires the foundation to have a seat at that conversation, because I understand about the unified branding that's required and the unified message to some degree. But I think that we've had a lot of discussion at the Perry County Community Foundation about needing a marketing and outreach plan. And we need materials, and we need video, and we need talking points, and we need all of these things. And again, I think Bobby's already and Jerry's already mentioned that a lot of that is in process. But we need to, not only do we need to be taught how to have a unified message, but we also need the materials, and we need the materials to share and the videos to share, and all of that branding that goes along with that. And so again, I think it's great for Brushy Fork to facilitate that, but I think that is another one of those conversations that the foundation has to be at the table with us so that we're all on the same page.
And so, and this question then is to the affiliates and to the foundation staff members. In the context of when those materials, videos, the website is being developed, will it be helpful if we for Brushy Fork to facilitate some conversations so that it leaves everybody free to speak and share? I mean, what should there be a role for us in that? It's a little bit different, I think, than the role we've been playing over the past year, but we could definitely do that.
I think that could definitely be helpful. You know, for marketing, part of that unified message is that there needs to be unified input in terms of everyone needs to be able to have that say, right? We don't want the affiliates to feel like we're telling them, you must do this. We just want to be able to provide support when they need it. And so that's what I love about this. Melissa, I think those are great ideas, getting those materials and getting those videos. And that's exactly the type of information we need so that we know, okay, we've got to figure this out and get these materials for you so we can get them to you. And I think Brushy Fork could be really helpful for that so that we can get that input to know what the affiliates need. And then so we can have that output to give them those materials.
One of the things we've talked about at our foundation, I put a comment to the side, I made a typo, but is that we completely understand and agree there needs to be a unified message, but there also needs to be a way to differentiate. So because one of the concerns is if somebody is giving to, like, say, the Perry County affiliate, how do they know? Because they go to the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky's page, so it's an affiliate, and we understand that, but some donors may not. And I know I experience this daily as being Hazard Community and Technical College, a part of Kentucky Community and Technical College system. Even trying to explain that to a federal funder is very complicated. And in fact, some federal funders don't even acknowledge that. And they make KCTCS be the applicant because it gets too confusing because there are 16 colleges under, although we are the ones that are accredited and not necessarily KCTCS. So I understand that dilemma. That dilemma extends far beyond the foundation, but yet each affiliate does want to have some individualized attention and the ability to market themselves individually. And so somehow, that fine line between, the foundation and then the affiliate and figuring out how to individualize those materials with a unified message. So smarter people than I have to figure that out.
Yeah, we actually brought that up somewhat with PMP brands when they were helping us come up with our rebranding. And one of the things we asked them for is for differentiated logos, because right now, obviously, everyone has that same tree. And so it's easy to mix up. Is this an affiliate? Is this the foundation? So what PMP has come up with so far is that obviously all of us will have the same color scheme, but there will be differentiation between the foundation's overarching logo and the affiliate logos. And they'll absolutely be similar and that they'll be identifiable as, working as a team, but there will be differentiation there. So hopefully that'll help with that issue. And obviously any ideas moving forward, we're open ears.
I was thinking about the video as an example. Everybody kind of loved that video. I would hope, and I don't know if it's easy or not, that everyone can have their own video, but it may be the same video, but it's their own video with their own name on it. Again, I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't know how difficult that is. But again, same message, but individualized. And so I think that would alleviate a lot of consternation with the community, with the Perry County Community Foundation anyhow. So, and some of that you've already talked about again in your PowerPoint, in your document, Bobby.
Okay, well, are there any areas which, you know, say in your last couple of board meetings that you kind of go, man, I wish we could figure this piece of what we're trying to do out? Is there anything that we haven't talked about that that the boards, affiliate boards, are struggling with or could use some more information on? I actually think we have connected with a lot of stuff in this conversation. So between the communications, fundraising and donor development, recruiting new board members, orienting board members, you know, we've got a lot of good material to kind of chew on and move forward with over the coming year. So, so we'll continue planning around that. So I want to quickly move on to a poll actually that, and I'll flash the questions up here so you can see them ahead of time. But some folks have said, are we sure that the time, well, actually, I think there is a regular board meeting now for, maybe it's the Pikeville Community Foundation that has a board meeting on the first Tuesdays of the month, right? So we want to do a poll to kind of find out just from the folks that are on the call right now, what day of the week works best for you, what time of day would work best for you, and then what, just maybe something that you could select about what's really impacting your ability to participate so that we can think about how we might be able to work around that. And I know we're getting a pretty small sample of people in this poll, but what we may do is create a larger poll to send out to people, which I know folks are surveyed to death, but this would just be a short thing about when's the best time for you all for us to have these meetings. But anyway, this poll I'm about to launch will ask those questions, and let's just get a sense for the folks who are on the call what the answers to those 3 sessions are. So you should see, do folks see the poll? I'm worried my polls won't work. But you can select more than one choice on this if you've got more than one answer that applies. So the first is what day of the week. The second is what time of day. And then what impacts your ability to join.
As far as this is Surekha, as far as I'm concerned, to me it doesn't matter any day because I don't work. So,
okay.
So for me it doesn't matter any day, any time.
Okay,
just
great.
I would like to know beforehand because sometimes things come up. As long as I know beforehand, I'm fine with it.
Certainly. Yeah. And we will, what we'll do is set a regular meeting time so that everybody can have them on their schedules well ahead of time, but we'll just try to find a time that works for everybody. And I realize, Surekha, you probably can't do the survey or the poll since you're on a phone, so I apologize for that.
But our internet it's been a month now. I don't know what's wrong. So if I can do this over the phone, that would be okay. That will be good. But my first preference will be on the internet, on Zoom, where I can see all these wonderful people.
Yes, yes, of course, certainly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the polling now because I think we probably have most of the board members who have responded, and I will share the results. And so it looks like and again, this is just the folks that are on the call, but what we're looking at right here is that Wednesday looks like potentially a better day for folks. Better day of the week's the one that kind of stood out at the top. The noon hour, again, 80% of respondents, which, I mean, you know, we're talking about 5 people right now, but noon on Wednesdays. And then it's conflicts with other regular meetings that are impacting people's ability to join typically, and also that people are too busy. But so it's that, I think that pattern that that you all have seen of bringing people onto the board, that folks who join these boards are busy people. And so trying to find time to participate in this is difficult. So we'll kind of keep in mind that Wednesdays came out on top here, but we may send a quick survey to the full contingent of board members so that we can get a response on and try to get a good date set that works better for more people. So, all right. So we've got a few minutes left, and the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and Jerry and I are going to talk about this together, is some work that Brushy Fork is engaged in with Partners for Education and several other folks in the Kentucky Promise Zone. And let me share my screen so you all can see. So there's a funder that we've actually been told we can't really share the name of the funder yet, who has funded some substantial work in the Promise Zone through Partners for Education at Berea College. And this work is over a 2-year period that started back in October. And the initial part of it was to fund COVID relief. So there was several funds that went out for COVID relief to school systems, because this is through Partners for Education, through family resource centers and things, to help families who were really struggling, and to help school systems that were struggling with the COVID situation. So there's a chunk of the work that's around that. So Partners for Education is that one partner. FAHE, which was Federation for Appalachian Housing Enterprises, but has broadened their work to become a community development finance institution, is also involved in this. Save the Children is involved in it. And the East Kentucky Concentrated Employment Program is involved in it as a partner. And so is Brushy Fork. And Brushy Fork is working closely with the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky through this work. And so basically throughout 2021 and into 2022, actually, support from this funder is going to help cover some of the costs for board development that Brushy Fork is doing with you all, for the planning and impact work that we're doing around the strategic planning, and also to bring some resources into the region around the specific work of building communities in which children and youth are safe, healthy, and supported. That's not necessarily just COVID relief work. That's broad work around that. So, Jerry, did you have anything specific you wanted to say? I know we had talked a little bit about how Brushy Fork's work with the foundation had, we were able to bring this to this larger partner.
Yeah, I think, I think this is a perfect example of, what's possible and what can happen. I just told Melissa, there's nothing you can't know. And now Donna just said, you can't know the name of this funder. that is not our call.
And that's actually not even our call.
That's not that isn't even related to any of this. But what we do know is that this came through the Berea College Partners for Education. That's how it came to us. And that's what we know. And we will share with you what we know. But I think the important takeaway here is when they were considering doing this work and went to Brushy Fork or looked around and said, how are we going to engage local communities? How are we going to get regular people in communities? And in this case, happens to be in the Promise Zone. And I know folks who are not in the Promise Zone get tired of hearing it. It's just the reality of where we are right now. Next time it may be a different whole set or group of folks, but in this case, when they looked and said, how are we going to get this money as close to the ground as we possibly can? How are we going to use these resources to really impact in local communities and getting communities what they need? The foundation bubbled up and said, hey, we have all these affiliates out here. Brushy Fork's already working with our affiliates. We're already talking about creating this network, already are creating this network. These are the folks that can and will get money as close to the ground in our communities as possible, and can and will share the priorities across our local communities. So I would just highlight that part of this work. This is really good and important work. And then we were also able, when Donna brought the opportunity to our attention, and then we went back to the Partners for Education and said, yeah, it's great that this is the Promise Zone, but we've got all these affiliates. Some of them are not in the Promise Zone, and they also could benefit from this work. And we were able to negotiate and say back, well, okay, let's make sure then that this training and these resources go to any of the affiliates, not just the Promise Zone affiliates. So while we were able to, we're able to do the board development and the planning and impact work with all of the affiliates that we have, not just the ones in the Promise Zone. Now we're going to talk about some re-granting dollars and some other resources that are going to be limited to the Promise Zone, and that's just the funders rule, and we're not able to do anything about that. But that doesn't mean that, you know, the next set of funding, which might be for something completely different or a different kind of COVID relief, we still want to steer all of our funders towards our affiliate boards. And I'm just excited that it's really starting to work.
Yeah, yeah. And so, so basically with the board development and the planning and impact, that's the work we've been doing along anyway. We've just found a better way to resource it from an outside funder for a while. So that's a good thing. The resources themselves, what we're talking about, and I mean, we'll share with what we know so far about it, is that there's $90,000 worth of funds available. Those funds have to be used in the Kentucky Promise Zone for families and children that live in the Kentucky Promise Zone. So that's Bell County, Clay County, Harlan County, Knox County, Leslie County, Letcher, Perry, and then those portions of Whitley that are in the Promise Zone. The funds have to be used to support building communities where children and youth are safe, healthy, and supported, which is actually a pretty broad category when you come to think of it. So that, you know, opens the door for organizations that are doing work around wellness and health for families and children, or education for families and children. Lots of room there. We will need to collaboratively design and figure out how we're going to use those funds, that the funding that's available there. So that'll be a process of working through that with the affiliates to figure out how those funds are used in the community. There's one more thing I want to say about that piece of it, just because Brushy Fork is also doing some work in the Kentucky Promise Zone around some kind of like leadership development and capacity building. And there will be projects that come out of that work, that teams who are working on some things to improve communities and make them supportive and for children and families, may be coming to the community foundations to say, we want to do this project that has engaged residents in the region or in the community. And so we may seek funding for that way. So that may be part of it. But I'm going to stop talking now and let you all ask questions about this or share your insights on it, thoughts.
Donna, this is Surekha Madiwar. In those counties names you mentioned, I did not hear Floyd County. So the Floyd County will not be part of that?
So Floyd County is not within the Kentucky Promise Zone. The part that Floyd County can continue to be involved in is the board development and the planning and impact. Some of those funds that are going to come out to be those, it's that pool of resources, those funds for the counties and the populations within the Kentucky Promise Zone that won't be available. But that doesn't mean that we can't do the thinking around what could the Floyd County Community Foundation be doing in that area, if it's an area that's of interest to them.
And it also doesn't mean that we can't, we won't be finding other dollars to spend in
Right.
other counties. We have a different project right now with resources that we're spending in Perry and Whitley counties. Sometimes a funder just approaches us and says, I have this chunk of money and I want to spend it in Jackson County or any county, and we just want to be able to channel that the right way. So while this particular set of dollars won't be available in Floyd or Pike County, that doesn't mean that all of this board development and planning for impact and such won't create another opportunity for dollars that will go to Floyd or Pike County. So it all continues to work in one big continuum.
Yeah.
So,
Besides Upper Cumberland and Perry County, what other affiliates do you all have that are in the Promise Zone, or are there?
There's Leslie or
Leslie County.
yeah.
Leslie County has their own foundation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So just a clarification about the $90,000, is the $90,000 the re-granting dollars, or does that also include the money to be spent on board development and planning and impact?
Those are just the re-granting
Okay,
dollars.
gotcha.
So, yeah.
What we're going to have to think about, Melissa, or everyone, is the process that we'll use, because it didn't say, well, this amount for Whitley County and this amount for Harlan County. We're not going to, it doesn't just necessarily get divided among all the 8 Promise Zone counties. It's a pot of money that we have to figure out, we being that you all, this as a network, need to figure out the best and most equitable way to make those resources available in the Promise Zone region. And
Is
some of it
Harlan
may
County-
be through these other projects that people are working on, maybe things we don't know about. It may be an opportunity to leverage a whole other $500,000. We just don't know yet.
Is Harlan County the only county not represented with any affiliates? Or
There was Harlan and there's Letcher.
Letcher.
I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
Interestingly, Harlan and Letcher County, both counties have community foundation, loosely organized community foundations. Neither one of them is affiliated with us. If anyone knows folks, we'd love to have them as part of our network if they ever were interested in joining in.
Right. And that reminds me of something that I haven't mentioned yet, and that is that we may invite them to be part of some of the training webinars so that they can gain some, insights for their own community foundations and build those connections into the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky, perhaps.
Right.
Not saying that they have to become affiliates because of that. That was not the intent, but if we can strengthen that, strengthen their efforts as well, then those communities will benefit.
Well, but
And maybe they will be affiliates.
We want them to see what they're missing, though.
Mhm.
You see,
Exactly.
if we
Yeah.
whet their appetite, then they'll join.
Right. Yeah. So I know this is kind of like a big announcement at the end of this meeting, or may feel like a big announcement, but we wanted to at least share that this has happened. And over the past couple of months, we've been starting to figure out on Brushy Fork's end, how do we make this all happen? So
will the individual, so will these be additional meetings for the foundations that are impacted to come together to discuss this? Or are decisions being made at a different level? Or are we going to do this, separately, independently from each other? Is there any thought about that yet?
So the decision-making meetings there will be a process that we'll have to go through that I see as separate from the board development, but maybe not so separate from planning and impact, if that is an area that the community foundations, and this is just my opinion on it right now, I really do, you know, that if a community foundation has created a plan and there's a huge, a large focus on families and children, I could see that, you know, being a really quick, easy fit with some of these funds. Not, but, and not that you have to have that in your plan to access those funds necessarily, but the thing is I think we need to think about how do we really collaboratively think about how this work and how it goes forward and how the funds are used. And so there'll be a process for that, but I'm not so sure yet what that collaborative process would look like. I know that's not a great answer. Yeah.
Okay.
So any other, yeah, Jerry, did you?
I have a 1 o'clock.
Yep, and we are at
I'm about
1:03.
to jump
So,
off of here,
yeah.
but I wanted to just really, really thank everybody that's here, and good to hear from folks I haven't heard from a lot. Shrika, I'm so glad to have you on the phone, and hopefully we'll see your smiling face next time. Claudia, everybody, it's so good to see you and appreciate the participation, and keep sending in your thoughts, your ideas, your positives, your negatives, whatever it is. We're doing this together.
Mhm.
And we need to know what we need to know, what we don't. So thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. It was a wonderful meeting. I loved it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if anybody has additional thoughts, feel free to drop me an email, and we'll incorporate them into our thinking going forward. So thanks, everybody, and take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.